My name is Catherine Blake. I'm 33 years old, and the moment everything in my life finally made sense was the exact same moment I realized I had been quietly preparing to leave long before I ever admitted it to myself. Not loudly, not all at once, just precisely. I work as an IT project manager for a healthcare software company downtown. My world is built on systems, on logic, structure, things behaving the way they're supposed to. Problems have steps, solutions have sequences. There's comfort in that, clarity. For a long time, I believed relationships could work the same way. Taryn was the opposite of me in every way that felt exciting at first. Warm, expressive, the kind of man who could walk into a room full of strangers and leave with half of them laughing and the other half remembering his name. He worked in hotel sales, fast-paced, high energy, built on charm and presence. We balanced each other. At least, that's what I told myself. We had a real life together, shared groceries, weekend errands, favorite restaurants, the kind of ordinary future that feels solid, until one sentence cracks it in half. 3 weeks before everything ended, I bought a ring. It cost $4,380 after tax. I still remember the number because I stood there for 10 minutes debating whether it was too much or not enough for something that was supposed to represent forever. I had a plan. A weekend trip. Quiet cabin, mountains, simple dinner. Nothing dramatic, just certainty. That was the future in my head. On Friday, Taryn told me we needed to talk Sunday night. I spent 2 days thinking maybe he wanted to talk about marriage or our lease renewal coming up in July. Something forward-moving, something stable. Instead, he asked me to meet him at a rooftop restaurant. He was already there when I arrived, sitting stiffly, fingers wrapped around a glass of water like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. He had that expression people rehearse before they hurt someone. I sat down slowly. "What's going on?" I asked. He hesitated, then said a name I hadn't heard in years. Lila reached out. Lila, his ex-girlfriend. The one he had described over the years as unfinished business, then a mistake, then someone he barely thought about. Apparently she lived in Wilmington now. Apparently they had been talking for 2 weeks. I blinked. "You've been talking to her for 2 weeks?" His eyes filled with tears immediately, like the emotion had been waiting right behind the surface. "I didn't know how to tell you," he said. And then he said the sentence that ended us. "I need 1 weekend with her to get closure." I didn't react right away, because I heard everything inside that sentence. That he had already reopened a door that was supposed to be closed. That he wanted me to wait, while he compared me to someone from his past. That he genuinely believed this was honesty, instead of humiliation. "I need to know for sure that what I feel for her is gone," he continued, voice shaking, "before I can fully move forward with you." I just stared at him. There's a moment when your brain tries to catch up to your reality, when everything slows down, like your mind is giving you one last chance to reinterpret what you just heard. I didn't reinterpret it. I understood it perfectly. "Are you serious?" I asked. "I love you," he said quickly. "That's why I want to do this now, before marriage ever becomes real. If I come back knowing I choose you, we'll be stronger than ever." Stronger. That word echoed in my head in a way that felt almost surreal. Stronger. After he spent a weekend with another woman deciding if I was enough. That was the moment something inside me went cold. Not anger. Not even sadness at first. Just clarity. I reached into my purse, pulled out some cash, and placed it under my untouched drink. Take all the time you need, I said quietly. He blinked at me like he expected more. A reaction, a fight, tears. Something emotional he could respond to. I gave him nothing else. I stood up, turned, and walked out. The elevator ride down felt longer than it should have. Like gravity had shifted slightly, and everything was just heavier. By the time I reached the parking garage, I could barely see straight. I got into my car, closed the door, and then I broke. Not quietly. Not gracefully. I cried so hard I had to sit there for 15 minutes before I could even think about driving. Calm does not mean unhurt. It means you're too hurt to beg. On the drive home, I made one phone call. The leasing office. I left a message asking them to update the renewal paperwork for a solo lease starting Monday morning. Our deadline was Tuesday at noon. If I missed it, rent would jump by $410. Even in heartbreak, I followed systems. When I got home, I stood in the doorway for a long moment. The apartment looked exactly the same, and completely different. My eyes landed on the shoebox in the closet. The ring. I stared at it for a long time. Then, I opened the closet, and I started packing. I didn't rush. That's the part people don't understand when I tell this story. There was no dramatic music playing in the background, no shaking hands throwing things into boxes, no angry messages, no impulsive decisions. Just precision. I folded his shirts the way I always had. Clean lines, sleeves tucked in. I wrapped his glassware in newspaper so nothing would break. Bathroom items were sealed separately so nothing would leak. Kitchen things went into one box, work things into another. Every movement was careful. Because the truth was, I wasn't trying to destroy anything. I was just removing him. By 1 in the morning, his side of the closet was empty. By 2, every drawer he used had been cleared. By 3, the apartment looked like the outline of a life that had already ended. My phone buzzed a few times while I worked. Taryn. Please don't do anything dramatic. I stared at that message for a long moment. Then another one came in. I'm just trying to make sure I don't carry old feelings into our future. That one almost made me laugh. Not because it was funny, because of how perfectly it captured everything that was wrong. He was talking about our future, while asking for a weekend with someone else. He didn't know about the ring. But somehow, he had still managed to turn my almost proposal into a justification for testing his past. I didn't reply. By morning, I had a plan. At 9 o'clock sharp, I walked into the leasing office. Monica, the manager, looked up when I came in. "Morning, Catherine," she said warmly. "Everything okay?" "Yes," I replied calmly. "I just need to update the lease renewal to my name only." She blinked once. Didn't ask questions. Just nodded and pulled up the paperwork. I signed everything, paid the $275 processing fee, asked her to deactivate Taryn's gate access by the end of the week. Monica glanced at me once more before finalizing it. "Done," she said. "Simple. Clean. Final." After that, I drove to a storage facility and rented a unit, 5 by 10, $94 a month. I moved most of his things there before work. Box by box. Trip after trip. It was physical exhaustion layered on top of emotional exhaustion. But it helped, because every box I carried out was one less thing tying him to me. When I was done, I left 2 overnight bags and a laundry basket of essentials by the front door. Then I wrote a note. "You wanted clarity? Here's mine. Your things are packed. The unit is paid through next month. Text if you need the code." Please don't come here unannounced. I placed the note on top. Then I went to work. I don't remember much about that day. Meetings, emails, conversations that required my attention. I functioned.
Barely.
But I functioned. He came back Monday night. Of course he did. I knew the second I heard the knock. There's a specific rhythm to someone who believes they still belong somewhere.
Confident. Familiar.
I opened the door. He didn't even look at me at first. He tried to step inside like he always did. And then he saw it. The empty closet. From the hallway. He stopped mid-step. His entire body froze. "Catherine," his voice cracked immediately. "No." He looked back at me, eyes wide, already filling with panic. "I made a mistake," he said quickly. "Nothing happened. I swear, I didn't interrupt. I just stood there, letting him talk, because I needed to hear how he would explain this. "I drove back, and the whole time I just kept thinking about you," he continued, stepping closer. "You're the one I want. I know that now." Now. The word landed exactly where it should have. Too late. I thought... He hesitated, swallowing hard. "I thought you'd wait until we talked." There it was. That assumption. That quiet certainty he had been carrying. That I was permanent enough to wound, and patient enough to stay. Something inside me hardened in a way that felt irreversible. I picked up the bags by the door and handed them to him. "The rest is in storage," I said calmly. "I'll text you the code." He didn't take them at first. Just stared at me, like he was trying to reconcile two versions of reality. "Are you really doing this?" he asked, voice breaking. "Throwing away 4 years over one weekend?" I shook my head slightly. "No," I said. "You threw it away when 4 years still wasn't enough to know."
Silence. Heavy. Absolute.
He looked like he wanted to argue, to explain, to rewind time and say something different at that rooftop table. But there are moments in life where explanation becomes irrelevant. This was one of them. "Catherine," he tried again, softer this time. I didn't let him finish. I stepped back. And I closed the door. Not gently. Not violently. Just decisively. The kind of close that doesn't leave space for reopening. Afterward, I didn't move right away. I stood there staring at the door, listening to the silence on the other side. Eventually, I walked into the kitchen, and I sat on the floor, because suddenly, standing felt like too much effort. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. No background noise, no second presence, no small familiar movements. Just absence. My eyes drifted to the fridge. Magnets from our trips. Boone. Savannah. Nashville. Tiny souvenirs from a future that had just disappeared. I reached up and pulled one off. Then another. Then another. Not angrily, just methodically. Like everything else, grief doesn't always look like chaos. Sometimes it looks like organization. Sometimes it looks like someone sitting on a kitchen floor at midnight, quietly dismantling a life they thought was permanent. I didn't cry that night. Not again. I just sat there, holding pieces of a past that suddenly felt like it belonged to someone else. And somewhere underneath all of it, there was something new. Not relief. Not yet. But clarity. The kind that doesn't ask questions anymore. The kind that doesn't negotiate. The kind that knows, even when it hurts. The first few days after that were quieter than I expected. Not peaceful, just hollow. Silence has weight when you're used to sharing space with someone. It fills the corners, lingers in places where laughter used to sit, stretches out the hours in a way that makes everything feel slower. I'd wake up and instinctively reach for my phone to text him something small, something meaningless, a joke, a reminder, a habit. Then I'd remember, and it would hit all over again. Heartbreak isn't a single moment. It's repetitive. It clocks in and out all day. But the quiet didn't last. It never does when someone refuses to accept an ending. The first message came from an unknown number. "Catherine, it's me. Please don't block this one." I didn't respond. Then another. "I just need 5 minutes. That's all." Blocked. Then email. Subject line, "Please just read." I opened it once. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to understand the version of reality he was trying to build. It was filled with soft language, words like confusion, honesty, fear of making the wrong choice. He wrote about how he thought that weekend would make us stronger. Stronger. That word again. I closed the email halfway through. Didn't respond. Thursday morning, Monica called me. "Catherine," she said gently, "Taryn stopped by the office asking why his gate code isn't working. He wanted to know if we could temporarily reactivate it so he could pick up some things." I exhaled slowly. "He has everything he needs," I said. "Please don't give him access." There was a brief pause. Then Monica said, "Honey, we are not putting Weekend with the X access back on an active lease." Despite everything, I let out a short laugh. It wasn't humor. It was relief. Validation in a moment where I needed it. Friday evening, another message. "I'm outside your favorite coffee shop, Jubilee. Just 10 minutes." I didn't go. The next day, the grocery store. Then the Greenway. Then a bookstore I used to love, where I once spent an entire afternoon reading beside him while he pretended to understand poetry. Each time, I left. Not dramatically, just quietly. Because engagement, even anger, is still connection. And I was done offering him any version of that. Meanwhile, my life kept moving. That was the strangest part. I gave a client rollout presentation on almost no sleep and got pulled aside afterward. "We're considering you for a senior role," my manager said. I nodded. Thanked him. Smiled at the right moments. All while my chest still felt like something had collapsed inward. Life doesn't pause for heartbreak. It just continues. Saturday morning, I started therapy. Dr. Patel had a calm voice, the kind that doesn't rush you, but doesn't let you hide either. "What hurt most?" she asked. I didn't hesitate. "That he thought I'd still be there," I said. After asking that, she studied me for a moment. "So the heartbreak wasn't just losing him," she said. "It was realizing how safely he assumed he could break you." I didn't respond. Because she was right. And hearing it out loud made it feel heavier. Sunday night, things shifted. From sad to unsettling. Building cameras later confirmed it, but I didn't need footage to know. He was outside my apartment. I could feel it. There's a strange awareness you develop when someone becomes unpredictable. A sense that doesn't rely on sight or sound, just instinct. At 9:12 p.m., my phone buzzed. "I'm outside your door." I didn't move. Didn't answer. Another message. "I'm not leaving until you talk to me." I sat on my couch. Still.
Silent.
40 minutes passed. Then, another message. I didn't sleep with her. That sentence told me everything I needed to know. Not because of what it said, but because of what it implied. Then came the one that changed everything. I know you're awake. Your kitchen light is on. I stared at the screen, and for the first time, I didn't feel sad. I felt watched. That was the moment this stopped being heartbreak and became something else. Something I needed to handle carefully. I took screenshots. Every message. Every timestamp. Then I forwarded them to Monica, and I called the after-hours courtesy officer. He arrived within 15 minutes. I didn't open the door. I didn't speak to Taryn directly. I let someone else handle it. From a distance. Like I should have from the beginning. The officer escorted him out. Filed an incident report. And just like that, a line had been crossed. The next morning, I got a call I didn't expect. His mother. "Catherine," she said carefully, "Taryn told me some version of what happened, but it didn't quite make sense." I closed my eyes briefly. "I can explain," I said. And I did. No emotion. No exaggeration. Just facts. Then I forwarded her the original messages. There was a long pause on the line. Then she exhaled slowly. "Oh, absolutely not." Her tone shifted completely. "He is not going to keep one woman on a shelf while auditioning another," she said firmly. Unexpected ally. I didn't realize how much I needed that until that moment. For about 24 hours. I thought that might be the end of it. It wasn't. By the third week, this wasn't heartbreak on his side anymore. It was something else. Control slipping. He sent flowers to my office. White lilies. A card that read, "I chose wrong. Please let me fix it." My receptionist handed them to me with a raised eyebrow. I thanked her. Then threw them away. Kept the card. Because by then, I had a folder. Screenshots, emails, call logs, incident reports. Not because I wanted drama. Because I could feel it coming. A few days later, I got a message on LinkedIn. His cousin. Taryn just needs one face-to-face conversation for closure. Closure. That word again. She had closure when he asked for a weekend with his ex, and I ended it, I replied. Blocked. Then came the call.
Unknown number.
3 times in a row. I let it go to voicemail. "Catherine," a rushed voice said, "Taryn collapsed at urgent care. Stress. He keeps asking for you." I listened to it twice. Something felt off. So I called the urgent care directly. No patient by that name, they told me. No visit. No record. Nothing. That was the moment something inside me shifted completely. Sadness burned away, replaced by something sharper.
Clearer. Resolve.
Around that time, Dr. Patel told me something I didn't expect. "You need parts of your life that have nothing to do with him," she said. So, I tried. I joined a running group at a local park. That's where I met Daniel. He was 31, worked in physical therapy. Quiet confidence. The kind of man who didn't need to fill silence to feel comfortable in it. We ran the same pace. Complained about the humidity. Ended up getting coffee with the group afterward. It felt easy. Not forced. Not complicated. Just normal. After months of emotional imbalance, Normal felt sacred. We went out the following Friday. Outdoor wine bar. String lights overhead. Soft music. The kind of setting that makes everything feel a little lighter. Until I saw him. Taryn. Standing 10 feet away. Wearing the same watch I had given him 2 years ago. He walked straight toward our table. "So this is why you moved on so fast," he said. I stood up immediately. "Taryn, leave." He ignored me. Looked directly at Daniel. "She didn't even fight for us," he said. 4 years, and she packed me like I was nothing. Daniel stayed calm. "I think you should go," he said evenly. That's when everything snapped. Taryn reached forward and knocked over Daniel's glass. Red wine spilled across the table. Onto Daniel's sleeve. The entire patio went quiet. The manager rushed over. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't react emotionally. I just said one thing. "Please document this." Because by then, I understood something important. This wasn't about feelings anymore. This was about patterns. The police were called. And when they arrived, I handed them everything. Messages. Screenshots. Voicemails.
Timeline.
All of it. Taryn tried to explain. Tried to frame it as emotional distress. But even he sounded unsure. Because the evidence didn't match the story. He was issued a trespass warning. And one of the officers pulled me aside before leaving. "You should consider formal protection," he said quietly, "before this escalates further." I nodded. Because I already knew. Some endings don't stay quiet. They demand to be enforced. The decision to file wasn't emotional. It wasn't driven by anger or revenge or even fear. It was practical. That's the word Dr. Patel used. When someone shows you a pattern, she told me, you don't negotiate with it. You respond to it. So I did. The following Monday, I went to the courthouse. I brought everything. Screenshots, emails, call logs, the incident report from my building, the police documentation from the wine bar, the voicemail transcript from the fake urgent care call, even the card from the flowers. The clerk looked at the stack, then at me. "You've been busy," she said. "I've been exhausted," I replied. She gave a small nod. The temporary protective order was granted that afternoon. No contact. No proximity. No exceptions. For a moment, I thought that would be enough. It wasn't. 48 hours later, I found a handwritten note tucked under my windshield wiper in the office garage. "I still love you more than I ever loved her." I stared at it for a long time. Not because it moved me. Because of how completely it ignored everything that had already happened. That went into the folder too. By then, something inside me had fully shifted. There was no part of me left that saw him as the man I had planned a future with. Only the version of him that refused to accept reality. 2 months later, court was scheduled on a Thursday morning. I wore a navy suit. Because I had a client presentation afterward. And because some part of me wanted to look like my life was intact, even if it had taken weeks to feel that way. Taryn arrived early. Cream shirt. Neutral tones. That carefully softened expression people wear when they want to look harmless. He had a lawyer. Of course he did. The argument was exactly what you'd expect. He had been emotionally overwhelmed. The breakup had been sudden. He was seeking closure. My response had been abrupt, disproportionate. I listened.
Calm.
Detached. Because the difference between us at that point was clarity. When it was my turn, I didn't embellish, didn't dramatize. I just told the truth. Yes, we were together for 4 years. Yes, I planned to marry him. Yes, he asked for a weekend with his ex while we were living together and discussing a future. Yes, I ended the relationship immediately. Yes, after that, he repeatedly contacted me through blocked numbers, email, mutual connections, my workplace, and in person. Yes, I documented everything. Then I handed over the folder. The judge took her time, flipped through pages slowly, read sections twice. At one point, she paused, looked directly at a printed message, then read it out loud. I know you're awake. Your kitchen light is on. The room went very still. She continued reading. The voicemail transcript. The incident report. The timeline. Then she looked up, directly at him. Why, she asked calmly, would respectful closure require monitoring her home, contacting her workplace, involving third parties, and fabricating a medical emergency? He didn't answer immediately, just looked down. Then finally said, I panicked. I love her. The judge held his gaze for a moment longer, then said something that stayed with me long after that day. Being heartbroken does not entitle you to become frightening. Silence. Heavy.
Final.
The protective order was granted. 1 year. No contact of any kind. No third-party communication. Stay 300 feet away from my apartment, office, gym, and vehicle. Any violation would carry consequences. When we left the courtroom, he tried to catch my eye. I didn't give him that. Not out of anger. Out of closure. I walked out, got into my car, and drove straight to my presentation. Sat in a conference room with 12 people and explained a software migration plan like my life hadn't just been legally sealed away from someone I once loved. It felt surreal. Also, steady. Steady in a way I hadn't felt in months. After that, things started to change. Not all at once, but noticeably. I returned the ring. Got $3,100 back. Used part of it to pay down my credit card. Used the rest to book a solo weekend trip. Mountains. Quiet. Space. One trip that wasn't tied to a memory. Just mine. Work stabilized, too. In January, I was promoted. Senior project manager. 8% raise. Larger team. More responsibility. The old version of me would have told him first. Shared the moment.
Celebrated together.
The new version of me didn't even think about it. I told my mother. Then I told Daniel. And that felt right. Daniel and I kept seeing each other. Slowly. Naturally. No tests. No comparisons. No emotional negotiations disguised as honesty. The first time I apologized for double texting him about dinner plans, he laughed. Catherine, he said, that's called communicating. I smiled, because I had forgotten what normal sounded like. As for Taryn, I only know what I didn't ask to know. He lost a major client after missing deadlines during the weeks everything unraveled. There were vague posts online. Words like betrayal,
Narcissism.
stories that didn't quite align with reality. People who knew the truth didn't engage. His mother called me once. Not to argue. To apologize. She said I didn't deserve any of what happened. I thanked her. And I meant it. Because despite everything, the hardest part wasn't the court, or the messages, or even that night at the restaurant. The hardest part was the beginning. I loved him. Fully. Honestly. Without hesitation. And realizing that the person I was ready to choose forever looked at forever with me and still thought he needed to test the past first. That changes something inside you. For a while, you question everything. Your judgment, your memories, the conversations that felt safe. You wonder if the signs were always there, or if hope just made them smaller. In one of my sessions, Dr. Patel told me something I wrote down immediately. The right relationship will never require you to audition for the role you already hold. That was the lesson. If someone asks for space to see whether they want someone else, believe them. If someone treats your loyalty like a waiting room, leave. If someone expects you to absorb humiliation politely because they're just being honest, remember that honesty without respect is still cruelty. I was deeply heartbroken. I lost the future I thought I had. But I lost it before signing legal papers, before buying a house, before building a life that would have been harder to leave. That pain was expensive, but it wasn't permanent. Now, my apartment feels lighter. I replaced the couch, took down the gallery wall we built together, donated the wine glasses he picked out. Small things. But healing lives in small things. I sleep through the night again. I make coffee without checking my phone. I go places without scanning the room. And sometimes, when I catch myself laughing with Daniel, or planning months ahead without that quiet weight in my chest, I realize something simple, something steady, something earned. I'm not waiting for closure from the person who broke me. I gave it to myself.